Ray Tartan too, because Grandma is a Ray.
So it's MCRAE.
RAE.
Yeah.
But then they say Mac, MCRAE, isn't it Ray? I was trying to find the book where our names was in it. I'm not sure where it's at right now. But the McDonald clan had many other names under McDonald. And you still have some relatives down in Sheffield. Joey Callisti. He's Aunt Maggie's grandson.
You mean downtown?
Right down by our.
Oh, that's right around the corner from where I live. But I'm over by the River Market.
Oh, well, now they live.
But I mean, we just came up 24 and went by Sheffield, and you know, yeah, I know all around the area.
Let's see, they're at must be 800. I forget what Joey's address is.
And who are they now?
Joe Callisti. This is, well, they're in here, but here's some of their. He's going to come by and pick up some of these pictures. But his granddaughters and everybody. This was Mina, my first cousin, Mina's brother. And this was Mina's brother. And this was Mina's mother and father, Boyce, Joe Boyce. She married a Boyce. And they're buried out here at the Elmwood Cemetery. This was him. He was in the war before.
There's a lot of history at that Elmwood Cemetery.
And this isn't Elmwood. This is Mount Washington.
Oh, okay.
Mount Washington. Now this is a great grandmother of ours. This is Helen Nicole Ray. These are Joey's pictures. He brought them out here and wanted me to put names on them. And Helen Nicole, let me go back here one page. Helen Nicole is, she was married to William Ray. See, it's Helen, that's this woman right here. She was married to William Ray. And she was my great-great-grandmother on my grandmother's side. Isn't she a good-looking specimen?
Well, yeah. It's amazing how when we.
But look, you can look on the back of it and see when it was taken. That was probably taken back in, I don't know, 1860s or 1870s. See if it tells you anything on the back of it. And that girl there is Aunt Maggie, and she was a teenager. And that was her with her grandmother. And that was my dad's half-sister, just like you and Scott here. They were the same relation.
Huh.
That young girl married this guy right here. And that's Joey's grandmother and grandfather. None of these other people that you would probably even... Okay, here, tell me who you think that is now. You're sitting there with a smirk look on your face.
That's your dad.
It looks like him.
That's him.
Oh my gosh.
And Aunt Clara.
That's right. You're correct.
Gosh, he looks like Little John.
Looks like Stuart there. Not until he was a little older, or I think it was some of the photos he looks like you, some of them he looks like Stuart. He looks like Stuart in that one.
Who do you think that is, Scott?
Looks kind of, is it you?
Hey, who is this John Galt Stewart?
Never heard of it.
Okay, well here's John Galt Stewart's son, but on that piece of paper we have, it doesn't say that, it says Jean and then Gauldstuart.
That's Aunt Jean.
Yeah.
That's my dad's youngest sister,
Jean Stewart?
Jean Stewart. Her name was Jean Gall. She's Sheena's mother.
Okay, so she's the one that has the daughter, the Sheena in
Sheena.
Scotland. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well I seen that earlier.
This is my grandmother. That lady that's upstairs with them two canes. That's her right there. Just before she died during World War II, she sent that picture.
Wow.
That was about
Who's the kid
19.
picking his nose?
That kid picking his nose was Sheena's brother,
Okay.
Frank. He died in Australia last year. He
Yeah,
worked in tin
1886.
mines in Australia.
1891. Wow, that's neat. Picking his nose.
Oh, there's Dad and who is that? Helen?
That's
That's
Jack,
Carol.
his first wife, Carol. I don't know how many of those pictures and things that your mother still got around. But
Man, he had nice mini blinds in 1948.
Mm-hmm.
that was taken over in our front room at 800 Bennington, the house that Terry and Karen used to own.
Well, at least they had a cake and everything, and he could afford a suit. Pretty cool.
Oh, this is up in Northeast at the Terrace, huh?
That's right.
And you know what? It's man, it used to be so cool up there.
That's my dad, your great-grandfather, and Aunt Maggie.
Wow.
See, now these are Joe Calesti's pictures. I'm just digging out the ones that you would probably know. The
Oh
rest
wow,
of
this
it-
is Grandpa.
And I can show you. That's right up the street from my house, right there.
Yeah, up on Cliff Drive.
Right, yeah, right by the
Oh
museum.
yeah, I know. This wraps around.
Yeah.
Wow. what
Now that's
year?
Joe Calesti and his baby when he married Mina Boyce, which was my first cousin, and Joey is her son.
So Joe Calesti is
My second cousin.
second cousin,
Yeah.
which would have been your aunt's son,
Yes, grandson.
grandson.
Yeah. There's Aunt Maggie and Mina, my cousin. See, these pictures is all getting pretty old. This is Uncle Joe, my Aunt Maggie's husband.
Wow.
That's Aunt Maggie and Joe.
Now, is this all in the Northeast area?
Yeah. What's in Sheffield?
Yeah.
It's in
I think there's
Sheffield.
still some Calestis running around down there.
Joe Calesti, probably. He lives on Fremont, 800 Fremont, right on the corner,
Huh.
down there by where Uncle Paul lived.
And he was, where did he live at? Was he up there?
Uncle Paul was over there too.
Yeah, Uncle Paul lived. Paul lived on Fuller. Paul. Okay, now this is them right when my dad come over here from Scotland. In the front is Joe Boyce and Aunt Maggie, my dad's sister. that's Mina, and that's her little brother Joe, and that's my dad, and that's about 1923.
And which one's your dad?
The one in the back.
The tallest guy there?
Yeah, this is him right here too. This all taken at the same time, and so was this one.
Wow.
I won't even ask you because I'm sure you know who these people are.
Wow, look at the furniture.
Well, that would be you and great grandpa and grandpa?
Yeah, that's who it is. Jack, myself, and Dad.
Yeah.
And that was about 1945 or 1946. That's up on Cliff.
Yeah. See that, man? Them pretty flowers out there? Like, you wouldn't see any kind of flowers planted around there anywhere like that. They don't take care of it. Somebody just stole the copper off the roof.
Yeah, that's where they sold the copper.
Yeah. I seen that on the news.
That's when I graduated out of high school in 1951.
Yeah, John.
Who was
you
the
know
famous
exactly
guy?
where that's at.
Who was the famous guy you went to school with down there?
Tony Scardino, probably. Anthony Scardino.
Well, no, there's an actor though. There wasn't it. Oh man. Who's the lady in the back here? It's right
Helen
here. Oh, okay.
Katsoulis,
Okay.
Paul's wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the year they got married. That's about how little I was when Helen married Paul, my brother. The reason I'm handing these to you is because you should know all of these people. That's Aunt Clara,
Yeah.
and she belonged to Job's daughters. And that's my dad's.
Dad's dad.
No, that's my dad's brother-in-law, Joe Boyce, that married Aunt Maggie, and his cousin.
R.D. Riddle.
Yeah, he married. He was Aunt Maggie. He married Aunt Maggie's sister.
No, he really looks like you here, Scott.
Which one's that?
And that's the last one.
I mean, they really did take good pictures back then.
Now,
Wow.
that's just, a few pics. Now, these are the ones that Joe Boyd
Yeah.
brought over and wanted me to identify him because he's kind of like you all. He didn't know any of these people. And he said, you're the only one left that can recognize these people and know any of them. Now, anything you want to know. This was a house my dad, he wasn't born there, but he was raised there. We went over there and got a picture of it. There's Grandma and Grandpa.
Mhm.
This is the house right there, and it's made out of granite.
Really?
Yeah. Come out of that quarry. This is,
People still live in it today.
yeah, oh yeah, we went up to it, and they were sitting in the backyard, and I asked them,
cool, dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, I want to put, like, probably within the next 2 years, you know, I want to go over there. I want to go to Scotland and...
Well, you better go where you still got some relatives.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I want to...
That's
You know...
the only ones we got left.
You know, it's crazy. I got on that Facebook deal, and I had this John Galt request me from Scotland
Mm-hmm.
as a friend, and I'm like, well, I requested the guy because he didn't look like some crazy, you know. So I request. He's my age, but I don't ever talk to him. I kind of looked at his you know, his family and seen info about him, and that's it. I haven't talked to him about if he knows anything, but so that's it right there. Like, there's no.
Well, no, that's Grandpa and Grandma.
Yeah, I mean, in that picture though, that is the oldest living.
Sheena.
She is the oldest one there.
Yes.
I mean, okay.
That directly we are in contact with. I write to her 2-3 times a year. In fact, I can show you some letters I just got from her. This is the family. This
is Grandpa John right here.
Right.
Yeah, we've seen that picture.
That's Aunt Maggie. That's Aunt Bella. That's Uncle Frank. That's that one that was in Vermont that we went to see his daughter. Mm-hmm. My dad, my grandma and grandpa. Yeah. Anyway, these people were sitting out in the backyard and they were just talking and carrying on, you know. And I went up and I said, "Excuse me." I said, "My father was raised in this house. My grandfather ran those quarries out here in your backyard." And I said, "Would you mind if I took some pictures?" And they said, "Oh, no, just go on in the house and look around, you know." I didn't have enough guts to go in and start looking around in their house or anything.
Oh, yeah.
But I did walk back into the quarries. Now, he wasn't born. He was not born in that house. He was born in a row house where they had 5 or 6 houses all together.
Yeah.
He lived in the first part of it. They were like barracks, was what it really looked like. And Grandpa lived in the first apartment, and then the employees worked in the back apartment. This is the place where they lived in Kintore when Grandpa was a haberdashery salesman, and he kept track of what they sold, and I got all of his handwriting and a ledger that he kept. I keep it wrapped up out here in a drawer.
Mm-hmm.
That my father, when he went over there in 1965 after he retired from Armco, his sister gave him that book because it was his father's ledger. And he brought it back, and I have it, and I keep it so that the daylight and everything doesn't bother. But, well, this is Aunt Bella and Jean, Bella and Jean and Grandma. She had had a stroke then. Aunt Jean, Aunt Maggie, and Uncle Joe. These were my father, your great-grandfather. These were his kid pictures. This was when he was a little boy. They wore knickers.
Oh, wow.
And this was him when he was about 17 or so years old, before he come to this country and before he joined the Navy. So he was 12 when that picture was taken. He was 17 when these two were taken. Okay, these
Tilla
were the
Forey.
barracks that
Yeah.
This was in Tallafory, Scotland. This picture's actually older than this one. He was a streetcar conductor before World War One, and this was when he was in his streetcar conductor's uniform. This was him when he was in the British Navy, and he was in the Ordnance Department, and he was aboard on a minesweeper. And that minesweeper would go out and patrol the North Atlantic and pull up mines, and then they would get in a rowboat and row out to these mines and take the inspection plate off and reach in there and disarm the mine. This one is some of those pictures you saw up there. This is when he first come to the United States, and he was about 27. And Aunt Maggie and Uncle Joe lived on 8th Avenue.
Now this is where he was born at. These are redone
first-
vinyl windows now. People
Yeah.
still live there, huh?
Yeah,
Cool.
people still live there. Yeah.
Probably like condos or
This
something
is a
now.
house, and this is back in the quarries.
It's really beautiful over there.
Yeah, it's pretty. This was a ship he come over here on.
This is Ellis Island stuff.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
I've read up on that.
When we was over there, this was the building, and it's almost right in town of Aberdeen, where my great-grandfather, not my great-grandfather, my grandfather died. This is Sheena, and that's Barbara upstairs. This was an entrance into the building, and it was a hotel. And Grandpa and Grandma
How
lived
different
there.
the
In fact,
buildings
this is
are.
where he died. I've got a picture of every house they lived in, all the years that they were over there.
So this is the town here, huh?
Yes, this
is
the
Aberdeen?
town. This is Aberdeen, Scotland, and this is where the entrance. They lived, I think, on the second floor of this building, and now right down. You drive right down the street, and you run into a shopping mall. It's an old town. This is not.
That is cool though.
Yeah. And then Grandma
Oh,
could
look
no
how
longer
old it
afford
is.
to live in this building after Grandpa died. And she moved into Kintore, her and Aunt Bella. And this was the little house that they lived in on Spring Street.
Man, that is neat little cottages, huh?
Yeah, yeah. When, let's see, I don't even know what this here is. Oh, now this is Sheena. Frank, his real name was James Francis Stewart. But he hated James, so he always went by, and he hated Francis. He just couldn't stand the name of Francis. Like Sheena, Millie's father. So he went by Frank. And consequently, he, okay, this is Uncle Jim. Uncle Jim. This is Frank. And this is Aunt Jean. And this is Sheena when she was a little girl. This is Sheena and Frank when they were kids. And there's Grandma and Frank. And he was picking his nose, you know. This is Uncle Jim years later.
Where'd you acquire all the photos?
Most of them they had sent to Mom and Dad, my
Mhm.
mother and father, over the years, and no one ever seemed to be too interested in
So
them.
that's great that you kept them together, though.
And this is Uncle Jim and Sheena, and this is Aunt Maggie, Jean and Sheena. This is Frank when he was a baby. And there's Jean. She's with her dog. Here's Frank when he got married. Now he's what moved to Western. He was on submarines in the Malta, and he served for 25 years or something and retired. This was my dad's sister, her husband, and that's Sheena, and that's Frank. See, if you don't know these people and had never met them, and you know,
Yeah, you know, I'm just learning. Like I said, I don't know. You know, I
There's
remember
some
when I was
pictures of the
younger,
quarries in
you had a
there.
yellow book you brought over, and it was about that big
Yeah.
to Grandpa's house, and that was about. I think that's probably when you first started getting into it, huh?
This probably, and this is Sheena when she got married. Her and
It just looks so neat over there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the
Well,
buildings
this is when-
themselves.
this is Sheena's garden. You talk about it.
In her
garden.
house, at her house.
At her house, yeah. That's where we stayed. Aunt Barbara and I stayed, and we went over there.
Now, what does she do?
She cooks for the Earl from Ireland, and she flies around with him in his jet when they go back to Ireland or they go down to London or someplace. And this was our trip over there, and I kept track of every day we was over there and what we did, and the year and everything. This is getting more to look like what Sheena looks like today in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's 2 years younger than me. Her oldest daughter, Catherine, is not married, so she's got a blank sheet. She lives in a. Well, this is her home. She lives in an old building they used to shear sheep in.
Mm.
And they used to have hand clippers. They weren't electric. Well, they no longer do that, and they converted that building into a home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where Catherine lives, in part of this home. And this is where Catherine worked. She was a cook and a manager of like an overnight. This is Catherine. This was in my house on Dickinson Road.
Mm-hmm.
This is May, and this is Catherine. And that's why you need to get over and see these people while they're still alive. These were all taken at my place on Dickinson Road. This is Barbara and I and Catherine when Catherine was over here. There's Catherine's birthday, and was it your dad's? Were the same. Your grandpa's was the same time. Here's the family now. Myself, Jack, Clara, and Catherine. We're all sitting in my family room now on Dickinson Road.
Oh wow.
This is Charlotte. This is the second girl, and this was her husband. They have no children. This is that picture right there.
Oh, that looks cool.
This is our family that's left over there, and this is about all of them. This is Henry. Henry married Evelyn, and he's a Bobby. Do you know what a Bobby is? A Bobby is a policeman, and he's in the Canine Corps, and he works with the Queen of England. And when she comes up into Scotland, he goes around with his dog, and he checks for bombs and everything in the castles and in the rooms where she's going to stay.
Wow.
And this is a picture of him and her when they got married. This is Hannah, little Hannah, and this is where they live. And as you see over there, most of the houses they're not big like they're over here, and they're not. Yeah, there's castles and things like that. But this is her family, and she is a very pretty girl. I was going to say how old she was. That's Charlotte. Here she is. She was born in 67, 4th of August, 1967. When was you born, Scott?
1973.
Okay.
So she's 6 years older than me.
Yeah, okay.
So that means, yeah, she's 43.
Okay, these are her kids. Snow over there. There's him. These are family members.
Mm-hmm.
These are all family members. So everyone you look at over there is one of their family, one of their kids or something. This is,
Yeah, I want to go over there. Can you
this
do
is-
everything
this
over
is
there in
Ian.
about a week?
You can't hardly scratch the surface in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
This
you
is
know,
Ian. Now, he's a big boy. Ian is about 6'4", 6'5", weighs about 220, and he plays the pipes. And he marches in a band over there. And he's a big old boy. Let's see when he was born. 1968, 27th of November. How
Yeah.
old? When was you born?
73.
Okay. He's 5 years older than you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like a big old lumberjack. Big boy.
Hmm.
And this was a letter that Ian sent me about their wedding.
Oh wow, look at that.
At the castle
Yeah.
where they got married at.
That's cool.
Now this is Aunt Maggie's family. This is the ship she come over on.
Through Ellis Island.
Yes, so she come through Ellis Island. And this is Aunt Maggie.
And what was her last name?
Boyce. She married Joe
Boyce.
Right, right. And then she married Joe Boyce, and he come over before she did. He come over here and got settled. Then he sent for her and wanted her to come over here. So she come over a few months. This was the ship they come over on. And there's a list of the passengers. And this was his registration card. There's that picture over on Cleft Drive. Okay. And this is Joe Boyce right there. That was Aunt Maggie's husband right there. This is her buried up there. There's that same picture, that family. Aunt Maggie, Mina, Dad, little Joe, and Uncle Joe. It just took a long time to put this all together. And here, now this was Johnny Callisti when he come to this country. There's a ship he come over on. Here's his Ignazio Callisti was his name, but when he got over here, they called him Johnny. This is Johnny and Mina outside of 800 Bennington. Right there. That was at our house at 800 Bennington. This was our house at 6300 East 9th Street, and this is the same guy only years later. I got some pictures of him in World War I got from Joey.
Wow.
Yeah. Now this is this kid, this Joe Boyce right here. This is his grandkids.
I gotta run to the car real quick.
Huh?
I gotta get something out of the car real quick.
Okay. This is Joe's family. And this is Joe's wife, Joe Boyce's wife. I showed you that picture. This is Big Joe. And there's a ship he come over on. And this is his kid. Now they're still alive. I write to her constantly. She lives up in Minnesota. she writes to me all the time. That's Big Joe when he married his wife. A lot of these is people that Aunt Claire and I know, but you probably will never ever we'll probably never ever meet any of them. This is a girl I write to all the time. Oh, these are just pictures she shot on her vacation. This is when we were in Scotland, and these are some pictures I wanted to show. This was when we were in Lost Scotland. This is a picture of my dad's brother, Francis William Gall.
Okay, yeah, I seen that book on him too.
Okay, that's Francis William Gall. And that's my grandfather.
Yeah, okay.
That's Francis William. These two are just grandma, grandpa. Okay, now this was over in Scotland. This was a tombstone of Uncle Jim and Aunt Jane.
Where are they buried?
They're buried in Kintore. I went to their graves. In fact, I got their picture here someplace. They have no tombstone. He didn't feel like that granite should be used for tombstones. He thought it should be used for construction.
Because he owned the milling. He didn't own. He ran it.
He was just the manager.
Manager.
Of that particular branch. And Uncle Jim, he was a gamekeeper. He kept the balance of game, so you couldn't hunt or fish in certain areas because the game was maybe low or high. Mm. And that was Uncle Jim.
Now, him working at the mine, or the quarry, they say that they named John Gall after a guy, and all I seen was a picture of a painting that's in some museum of John Gall.
Right.
John Fife Gall.
John Fife. He owned the quarry.
He owned the quarry.
But he was no relation to us.
So what? They chose the name.
Out of respect. Now your great grandfather's in that picture, and that's of the quarry. And that's the slabs of granite that they would take out of that quarry. And that crane was brand spanking new. Brand spanking new when that picture was taken. They were so proud of that crane. You see anybody in there that you think might be our relatives?
Is it this guy here?
That guy right there in the corner. He was the superintendent, and that's his grandpa.
Yeah, that's
he was a young fellow then. Yeah, that's a picture of him.